We continue to look at partial derivatives. Here we have 3x minus y squared in one bracket multiplied by x cubed plus 4y in another bracket. I want you to write down this question. Pause the video, write it down, and without watching the rest of the video yet, I want you to find the partial derivative of, well, the first partial derivative of z with respect to x, then z with respect to y, then the second partial derivative, delta squared z by delta x squared, then delta squared z by delta y squared, and then delta squared z by delta x delta y, as well as delta squared z by delta y delta x. And if you do everything right, these two last ones should be equal. Alright? They will be equal if you do everything okay. Alright, so go ahead. Alright. You finished. What did you get? Let's see. Here, you want delta z by delta x. Now, we could multiply out the brackets, could expand the brackets, or we could also use the product rule. Let's use the product rule. Alright, so here you will hold 3x minus y squared as it is times the derivative with respect to x of x cubed plus 4y. Alright, plus, then you hold the x cubed plus 4y as it is and multiply by the derivative with respect to x of 3x minus y squared. Okay. Now here what we have then is 3x minus y squared times, when you differentiate this with respect to x, you get 3x squared, right? Plus, then you have x cubed plus 4y times, you differentiate this with respect to x, what do you get? You get 3. So you have your delta z by delta x. That was part A. Now let's look at part B. Delta squared z by delta x squared. Now, delta squared z by delta x squared. Alright, D here is delta, it should be. You're going to have this differentiated with respect to x. But it's a product of two more functions in x. So this part, use the product rule. Let's say you hold the 3x minus y squared as it is, times when you differentiate 3x squared with respect to x, you get 236x, plus you hold 3x squared as it is and multiply that by, when you differentiate 3x minus y squared with respect to x, you get 3 times 3. Alright, plus then this part now, you're going to differentiate it with respect to x. Now here the 4y is a constant, so it will amount to 0. This will become 3x squared, but remember it is multiplied by the 3. Each item inside the bracket is multiplied by the 3, right? So you're going to have 3 times 3x squared. So what do you get here? Multiply out the brackets. 6 3 is 18 x squared minus 6x y squared. Alright, plus 3 3 is 9 x squared plus 3 3 is 9 x squared. what you'll have is 18x squared minus 6xy squared plus 9x squared plus 9x squared. So what you're going to get is 18x squared. Alright? So you have 18x squared for that part. And you could have easily multiplied out the bracket here if you wanted to. You would have get 9x cubed, and when you have 9x cubed differentiated, right? When you differentiate 9x cubed, you have 3 9 is 27x squared. And then here you would have x squared y. If you had done that, what would you get? 3 by 3 is 9x cubed minus, just checking it out here, minus 3x squared y squared, right, plus 3x cubed plus 4 3 is 12y. You probably did it that way. So when you do this, when you differentiate with respect to x, you get 27x squared. 9 3 is 27x squared. Then 3 2 6 xy squared, 6xy squared. This part would have gone to 3 3 is 9. Oh, this would have been a minus, you know. Right? This would be a minus, not a plus. 3 3 is 9x plus 9x plus 0. Alright. So, here, what you have is 27x squared plus 9x plus this. This would amount to what? 18 plus 18. This would be, when you did this, hold 3x minus y squared as it is, differentiate this. Alright, we hold. Oh, I made a mistake. Mistake. I made a mistake here, you know. Hold on. Big mistake here. I did not multiply out by the 3x squared. Yeah, I realize it. Let's do it again. Part B. If you hold 3, well, what we're doing is d squared z. Or, not d squared, delta. I should say delta squared z by delta x squared. We're differentiating this with respect to x. If we do it by multiplying with the brackets, we hold 3x minus y squared as it is, multiply by the derivative of this, 3 2 6x, plus hold 3x squared as it is, multiply by the derivative of this, with respect to x, it will be by 3, plus, and then out here we say 3 times x cubed. When you differentiate this, you get 3 times 3, which should be 9x squared. Then when you multiply out and add, yeah, this is the part that I missed first. 6 3 is 18x squared minus 6xy squared plus 3 3 is 9x squared plus 9x squared. Oh, yeah. 9 and 9, 18. 18 and 18, 36x squared minus 6xy squared. Oh, that's what I did. Now, suppose you multiply out the brackets and then differentiate. What would happen? What you would have is delta squared z by delta x squared equal. Well, no, we're not ready for that yet. We'll what we'll have here is delta z by delta x. So delta z by delta x is equal to, multiply out 6 3s 18x squared minus 6xy squared plus, oh, I'm multiplying out this. It's up here, I should multiply out. My. Making all of these mistakes. This is the delta z by delta x. Suppose we multiply out the bracket first and then find this delta square z by delta x square. What would happen? It would be 3 by 3, 9x cubed. What you would have is 9x cubed, right? Minus 3x squared y squared minus 3x squared y squared, and then multiply out this 3x cubed plus 3x cubed, then 3 4s 12 y plus 12 y, and then after that you find delta square z by delta x squared. We differentiate this. Now here 3 9s 27 x squared minus, then you have 3 2 6 x y squared plus 3 3s 9x squared. This part would amount to 0. Alright. Now 27, what you'd have is 27x squared plus 9x squared give you what? 27 plus 9, 36 x squared minus 6x y squared. Alright. So you get the same thing. Regardless of how you do it. However you do it, whether you multiply out the bracket here first and then differentiate, or if you use the product rule here, you should get the same thing. Alright. I did it both ways because I don't know which way you would prefer to do it, but whichever way you do it, that's what you should get. Alright, but anyway, parts, oh, this is part C that we did, you know. My. This was part C. We skipped around part B. Let's do part B. Skipped over part B. Part B. What part B say? The partial of z with respect to y. Alright. So partial of z with respect to y equals, now here we have, let's use the product rule now, right? Whether you multiply out the brackets up here or use the product rule, you should get the same thing. Partial z with respect to y. Hold 3x minus y squared as it is. If you hold 3x minus y squared as it is, times, you differentiate it with respect to y, you get 4. And by the way, we're going to get the first two derivatives again after we finish this by multiplying out the bracket first, because that's probably how you did it. Alright? Plus, hold x cubed plus 4y as it is. X cubed plus 4y times, then differentiate 3x minus y squared with respect to y. You get negative 2y. Alright? You get negative 2y. You see that? Alright. Now let's simplify this. And could just multiply out the brackets too. 4 3s 12x minus 4y squared plus, well, it's going to be a negative. Negative 2y times x cubed is negative 2yx cubed. So here, our negative there. A minus again, you know, another negative. 2 4 is 8y squared. So that's delta z by delta x. And then we want delta z by delta, delta z by delta x. We did A and C already and just did B. So what we have is D, delta square z by delta y squared, right? So D says delta square z by delta y squared. What is it? Delta square z by delta y squared equal, so this was delta, what was this? Delta z by delta y, it's y. Why I have x down here? It's not x, it's y. Is y I should have, So delta z by delta y, you hold 3x minus y squared as it is, differentiate it with respect to y, and you have y. You have 4, right? Plus, you hold x cubed plus 4y as it is, times, you differentiate this part with respect to y, you get negative 2y. Negative 2y. So this should have been delta z by delta y, not delta z by delta x. Alright, I just realized it. So now you want delta square z by delta y squared. What happened? This amounts to 0, that's gone. This is negative 2 4 is 8 y. Remember your power rule, right? And this with respect to y, this is minus 2x square cube. Because the x, we're treating it as if it's just a number. Minus, now 2 times 18, 6, 2 times 8 is 16, y to the 2 minus 1, which is just y. So what we have here, negative 8y minus 16y is what? Negative 24y minus 2x cubed. So those are what we have so far. Alright? Now we want delta square z by delta x delta y. This is what? E. Alright, so E delta square z by delta x delta y. What this means is that you're going to find the partial derivative with respect to x of delta z by delta y. So you're going to find the partial derivative with respect to x of. So remember, this means that the y part was already done and then you move to the x part. What was delta z by delta y again? It was this. So it's 12x minus 4y squared minus 2y x cubed minus 8y cubed squared, not cubed, squared. Alright, so what you have here, differentiate it with respect to x. This is going to be 12. This will go to 0. It's going to be minus. Bring down the 3. 3 times 2 is 6. X squared y. Let's put it in alphabetical order. this will go to 0. So it's 12 minus 6x squared y. Alright. Then f now, delta square z by delta y delta x. So f delta square z by delta y delta x equal. It's going to be delta, which is the derivative with respect to y, partial derivative with respect to y of delta z by delta x, which means the partial derivative with respect to y of, where is delta z by delta x? Delta z by delta x is 3x minus y squared by 3x squared. Alright. 3x minus y squared and 3x squared, 3x minus y squared, 3x squared plus x cubed plus 4y 3 plus x cubed plus 4y by 3. Alright, let's just multiply out the brackets before we do it. Probably less confusing. Delta by delta x of 3 3's 9x cube, alright, minus 3x squared y squared plus 3x cube plus 3 fourths 12y. Alright, so oh my, I wrote x here is y. I should write by delta y. Alright, so we differentiate this with respect to y and see what will happen. This will go to, alright, this will amount to 0. This part, you bring down the 2 in front, multiply by the negative 3, so you get negative 236 x squared y. This will go to 0 because x is just treated as a number. I have plus 12 6 squared 6. Alright, so you could rewrite this with the 12 in front. 12 minus 6x squared y. So you see 12 minus 6x squared y for delta squared z by delta x delta y, and this is 12 minus 6x squared y. Same thing for delta squared z by delta y delta x. So here we go. Alright, so that's that. So remember what we did. We used the product rule to work this out. Whole 3x minus y squared times the derivative of x cubed plus 4y with respect to x plus whole x cubed plus 4y. Find the derivative of 3x minus y squared with respect to x when we're doing the delta z by delta x. We did the same thing with the delta z by delta y. It's just that we differentiate with respect to y this time. Alright? To ensure you follow the steps. Now, here, let me suppose that you had multiply out the bracket first before you work it out. So let's look at that. Z equal 3x minus y squared, 3x minus y squared by x cubed plus 4y, x cubed plus 4y. Alright, so z equal 3x times x cubed, that's 3x to the 4th, 3x times 4y, that's plus 3 fours 12. Xy minus x cubed times y squared, x cubed y squared minus y squared times 4y gives us 4y cubed. If we find delta z by delta x, what would happen here? We'd have 3 fours 12 x to the 3 plus by delta x now. So the y is like a number. How you left with? What you have here is a number 12y multiplied by x. When you differentiate that, how you left with is the number 12y. Alright? Minus now. Differentiate with respect to x, you bring the 3 down. I have 3x to the 3 minus 1 is 2, y squared. Here you don't have any x at all, so this goes to 0. Was it the same thing that we got before? Let's see. Delta z by delta x. Delta z by delta x. When we multiplied it out, well, it kind of looked different, but when we multiplied it out, delta z by delta x, and we did it down here. What was the delta z by delta x again? Where was it? Delta z by delta x, it amounted to 9x cubed minus 3x squared y squared. This is 12x cubed. 3 fours 12. Let's see, 3 times this, x to the 4, 3 fours 12. 12 x cube, no, 3 by x, 3x to the 4th plus 3 fours 12xy minus x cubed y squared minus 4y cube. Alright, this is 3 fours 12x cube plus 12y minus that. That's delta z by delta x. Delta z by delta x. When you multiply out this, delta z by delta x, well, was, I didn't add the 9 and the 3. 9x cubed plus 3x cubed gives you 12x cubed. So it's okay. This is 12x cubed, alright? And after that, you have plus 12y plus 12y. Then after that, minus 3x squared y squared. Minus 3x squared y squared, right? What I was saying, you see this 12x cubed here? You would get it if you have the 9x cubed here plus the 3x cubed here, which gives you 12x cubed. Alright? Alright. So, that itself shows you what would happen if you multiply out the bracket and then find delta z by delta x. Also delta z by delta y. This is what you got without multiplying out the bracket. But suppose you had multiplied out the bracket first, what would you get? Delta z by delta y equal, this amounts to 0, that's gone. This would be 12x. This is minus 2 x cubed y minus 3 fourths 12y squared. So we had it down here, del z by del y. So 12x minus 2 x cubed y We have the 12x minus 2x cubed y. And then this part, negative 4y squared minus 8 squared will give you negative 12y squared, just like what you see here. Alright? So, if you did not get everything correct, straight out, right? Whatever part you had missed out on, want you to try that part again, or the whole question again, without looking at the solutions here. So I will see you.